Pocahontas is a controversial Disney classic. Some say the film is problematic, while others think it brought attention to an important cause. Either way, the film is artistically gorgeous. Want to know what happened to Pocahontas after the movie ended? Stick around till the end to see how Meeko and Percy ended up. First time here? Smash that subscribe button and don't forget to like this video. Now let's see what happened to Pocahontas after happily ever after.
Yes, it will be good to see them again.
Well, perhaps one day you'll return to London.
Pocahontas is everyone's favorite outdoorsy princess. We all love fluffy dresses and tiaras, but canoeing is pretty epic too. We'll take a cliff diving, fishing, hunting princess any day. Pocahontas is as tough as she's smart. She doesn't need a prince to take care of her. Those aren't her only awesome traits. She's brave, intelligent, compassionate, and diplomatic. She's so fantastic that she even has 2 guys fighting over her. You go, girl. Any woman like that has great things in store for her future.
But Grandmother Willow, what is my path? How am I ever going to find it?
This awesome leader was the star of not 1, but 2 Disney features. The first movie was a total classic. It gave us Meeko and Percy, possibly the cutest duo since Timon and Pumbaa. It also opened a lot of people's eyes to see how English colonialism may have felt from the perspective of Native Americans. Can you imagine the terror the Powhatan people must have felt? One day they had never even heard of guns, and the next they were being fired at. Scary. For a lot of people, this was the first time they heard the story from that perspective. Some have said the films were problematic and included hurtful stereotypes. Cultural awareness has improved since the first film was released in 1995. Maybe some things could be improved and made more accurate. It's still really important that the movie made people see the perspective of oppressed people. That makes the film historically important. Pocahontas was very loosely based on a real woman, but is definitely an artistic interpretation. The tables are completely flipped in the second film. Pocahontas travels to England to meet King James. Our hero princess manages to save her people from English attack. Not to mention, she finally gets her fluffy dress moment. In Pocahontas 2, Journey to a New World, the princess slowly falls in love with John Rolfe. This is where the story gets good. We've talked about how Disney's Pocahontas is not a direct representation of her historical counterpart. That means that what happened to her after she fell in love with John Rolfe doesn't necessarily match up to what happened to the real person. So what happens after she hooks up with her new guy and sails off into the sunset? Being in love with a well-respected Englishman would be very complicated for Pocahontas. The rules of English society were extremely rigid and puritanical. Being in love with someone from a different culture, religion, and ethnic group would have been extremely taboo. A lengthy or highly public courtship would be out of the question. Society would never stand for it. The couple shared a scandalous kiss on the ship headed back to Virginia. It's pretty clear that marriage is on the horizon. They would have never been accepted into England, so America is the perfect place to start their new life together. They picked the perfect place to. After all, Virginia is for lovers. Pocahontas is a very strong woman.
Surely His Majesty would not refuse an audience with a visiting princess.
She wouldn't let something as small as getting married determine the rest of her life. We imagine the couple having homes in both Jamestown and with Pocahontas' people. The wedding would be a huge multicultural affair. Can't you picture Meeko and Percy in matching ruffle collars? How cute is that? Her best friend Nakoma would obviously be right by her side and help her plan every detail. The ceremony would have to take place somewhere special. Pocahontas is a very spiritual woman. She'd want to get married somewhere she had a serious connection to. We imagine a small, intimate ceremony taking place under Grandmother Willow's branches. Wouldn't it be amazing if John recited his vows in Pocahontas' native tongue? Once the pair were officially married, they would celebrate at a huge reception. Both English settlers and indigenous Americans would come together for this joyous bash. The menu would represent the union of their 2 cultures. We can't help but imagine an enormous English-style wedding cake, no doubt decorated with edible leaves to honor the princess's love of nature. After the wedding, married life would treat the Rolfes really well. They celebrate the birth of a sweet baby boy, Thomas. Pocahontas would have a great time raising children side by side with her best friend. Being a mom is hard, but having someone to have play dates with can be a total blast. The Rolfe family would be important figures in the colony of Virginia. Pocahontas would serve as a pretty awesome ambassador. Her work in Jamestown would ease a lot of tension between her people and the English. She's been a peacemaker since she was a teenager. That wouldn't stop after she had her own kids to look out for. In real life, John and Pocahontas only shared one child, but the Disney princess has a different story. She and her husband would also have a beautiful daughter. She'd grow up to be as beautiful, outspoken, and brave as her mother. Pocahontas wouldn't be happy with being a stay-at-home mom. She's just too much of a go-getter to be fulfilled with life as a housewife. After the bear baiting incident in the second movie, Pocahontas discovers one of her life's greatest passions, animal conservation. Her people highly value sustainable hunting and fishing practices. They recognize the importance of protecting their resources. Pocahontas would work as an advocate both in the colonies and England. She would educate people on why things like bear baiting aren't just good fun. She's never been afraid to speak her mind, so standing up against English culture would be a breeze. She'd also spend years of her life encouraging sustainable practices in the colonies. The English settlers were cultivating and building on her ancestral lands. Protecting that land and ensuring it would be beautiful and thriving for generations would be extremely important to her. Not only would her people's land benefit from these practices, but the English would have an awesome teacher. They could learn so much from this native expert. No one knows the land better than she does. She would teach them everything they would need to know about farming, hunting, fishing, and thriving in her homeland. That relationship would go a long way toward building a lasting peace between native peoples and the European settlers. 7 years after her wedding, Pocahontas would face a new cultural challenge. The settlers in Virginia would begin to celebrate Thanksgiving. The holiday is really fun for a lot of people. We all love to sit down with our loved ones and pig out on turkey and stuffing. For some people, the holiday represents more than just turkey naps and football. To many Native Americans, Thanksgiving feels like it perpetuates a lot of hurtful myths. In Pocahontas, the English settlers don't arrive as friendly neighbors. They're hostile and only interested in exploiting the land for wealth.
Why, for years they've been ravaging the New World of its most precious resources. But now, it's our turn.
Thanksgiving is also celebrated as a holiday of the peaceful relationship between indigenous people and European settlers. We know that's just not how it went down. We'd like to think that Pocahontas would be a voice for reason and compassion during this awkward holiday. There's no reason why Thanksgiving can't be about just that, giving thanks. We all have things to be grateful for. Appreciating what you have and celebrating with your family are both great things. We see Pocahontas sitting down with her European neighbors and family and discussing how her people have struggled while discussing future peace. If anyone could fix Thanksgiving, it's Pocahontas. So far, everything seems to have worked out pretty great for our princess. She's in love, married, living close to her best friend, and raising a family. Her people seem mostly at peace with their new English neighbors. Don't think for a second that there isn't some drama in her life, though. Even someone as down-to-earth as Pocahontas is going to have a few problems. Hers aren't the worst to have either. They mostly stem from having too many gorgeous men interested in her. Sounds really tough, right? There's no way you forget about John Smith. He's the hunky blonde that Pocahontas spent her entire first film hiking and flirting with.
No, I need your hand first. It's how we say hello.
As far as we know, he was her first love. They say you'll never forget the first person you fall in love with. In the second film, it definitely seems that our girl still has a thing for the other John in her life. She's speechless when she finds out he's still alive. The two are delighted to be together again. Smith is ready to reignite their romance. He tells her that he's thought of her every day since they last saw each other. How romantic. All of John's dreams come true in the second film. All but one. He's given his own ship and is all but ready to set sail that minute. He steamrollers right over Pocahontas, assuming she'll obviously just follow along with whatever he wants. But that's not how our princess operates. She was obviously hurt that he'd write her off the rest of her life without so much as asking what her plans were. Maybe that's why she told him it was time for their paths to go separate ways. That's not where the story with John Smith ends. Pocahontas would probably make more trips to London to see her in-laws and continue her work as an ambassador. The chances that she'd run into John Smith would be high. After all, our girl is smart, talented, and gorgeous. Who wouldn't carry a torch for her? Smith is definitely still hung up on his New World love. Pocahontas obviously still cared about him even after she thought he was dead. She only turned him down because his dreams didn't line up with hers. These two star-crossed lovers would spend the rest of their lives bumping into each other on two different continents. Her husband probably wasn't a huge fan of that. One Disney fan even wrote a fanfic about the princess's love for Smith getting the best of her. She's a loyal woman with a ton of integrity, so the story is a little far-fetched to us. Carrying around a crush on your ex is brutal. With everything else going on in her life, this must have been a massive pain for Pocahontas. Like she doesn't have enough to worry about already. We couldn't talk about what happened to Pocahontas after the credits without checking in on her two fuzzy friends. The last time we saw Meeko and Percy, they were chowing down on finger sandwiches and English biscuits. After marrying the wealthy John Rolfe, the spoiling would continue. Percy and Meeko have been best friends for a long time. After their rocky beginning in the first film, they soon became like brothers. The prissy pug and ravenous raccoon do everything together. We imagine the pair begging and scavenging their way through Virginia, and countless ambassadorial trips. From matching collars to sleeping in matching baskets, the colonies have been good to these furballs. We're a little worried that they might develop weight issues later in life. As they play less and continue to snatch snacks, John and his wife would have to really work to keep their pets healthy. So that's the real end of the story. We watched our princess sail off into the sunset. Now we know what happened when her ship pulled into port. Pocahontas marries the love of her life in a beautiful ceremony. Her reception brings two worlds together. She has two beautiful children and is a loving mom. She continues to work hard for her people and to be a great ambassador of her culture. She delicately teaches her people and their European neighbors how to coexist. She's a fearless warrior for animals. She teaches European settlers the best ways to live off the land she loves. Pocahontas is an ambassador, activist, mother, wife, and cultural icon. How many Disney princesses can say that? We hope you loved seeing what happened to this Disney princess after the credits stopped rolling. We'll see you next time.